This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social. Delighted to be joined here today by Ben Davison. We're at the West Ham Boxing Club in London. How are you, Ben?
I'm good, thanks, Rob. You?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Just trying to negotiate this mic lead. I think we'll probably be all right. Happy New Year. How was your Christmas?
Good. It was good. After the fight, went on a little holiday. Had some well-deserved rest time, may I say, and had some family time. So it was good. What about you?
It was good, thank you. It was good. I had the same. As soon as Dillian Whyte landed that left hook on Derek Chisora, I was done. And I came back on January the 2nd. Enjoyed a bit of Christmas turkey over the break?
Yeah, a little bit. Not too much, though.
See, I can say that to you because I've enjoyed Christmas turkey since Christmas 2013. So we're down here today. Just tell us a little bit about what you've been doing. You've been working with some of your quote-unquote other fighters.
Yeah, I'm just helping out a young lad at the minute and taking a look at one or two others. And it's good, you know. Listen, all the lads here, sometimes it's nice to come down and help them out as and when I can and when I've got time. Isaac Lowe's just getting a new date, so he's on his way down here now. So we'll be starting his camp off to get him prepared as well.
Isaac Lowe, I saw today, has joined the gang, joined MTK Global.
Yes, joined MTK. You know, they've done fantastic work for close fighters and close friends of his in Billy Joe and Tyson. And you know, he's seen them do lots of good work with many other fighters as well. So we had a chat about it as a team, me, him and Tyson. And, you know, we advised him that would be the best move. And they come forward with a fantastic offer for Isaac. And it's a decision that we made to go with, yeah.
Now, I spoke to you quite often over the break, over Christmas. Enjoyed a bit of time away, went to Disneyland, looked like you had a great time. Were you able to switch off from the boxing? Obviously, you had like a hell of an end to the year in December. The last 18 months or so have been very intense with Tyson. Were you able to switch off?
I don't really switch off, you know. I'm constantly analysing things, and she was telling me off while we was away. But every chance I could, I must have watched the fight at least once a day, every day since the fight, and just analysing it. But that's how I am. I struggle to switch off, but maybe it's a good thing. I don't know, but I still had a good time and a good rest over the Christmas period, and straight back to work.
Yes, it's kind of, I mean, we've spoken about this before, kind of what makes you who you are as a trainer. I mean, somebody who's achieved an awful lot in such a short space of time. Believe it or not, he's 26 years young. Wouldn't have guessed it with that beard and that gut. Again, can say that because I have a horrible beard and a horrible gut. Do you think that will continue to be kind of your makeup as you move on? That kind of relentless thought process really about boxing, is that kind of what you see as one of your major strengths moving forward?
Yeah, I've always been like that. I've always wanted to, you know, wanted to be the best I can be and do the best I can do, and which leads to bringing the best out in the fighters that I work with, and that's what my job is. So you know, it's definitely a strength and a good asset. And I think it showed in my work with Isaac and Tyson.
You mentioned you watched the fight once a day. I've not watched it once a day, far from it, but I've watched it a few times since. Just wondered if your thoughts about the fight had changed at all since you watched it once a day.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I feel like Tyson definitely won the fight. One thing I will say is when people talk about the fight, they say, oh, Tyson got dropped twice, you know, there's 4 rounds down. He's not 4 rounds down, he's 4 points down. And I think a lot of people get confused about that, because if the 2 knockdowns happened in the first 2 rounds, that's 4 points if we make it simple. Then there's still 10 rounds to play for. If all them rounds go to the other opponent, it's 10-4. So when you actually do the maths properly, Wilder would have had to have run 5 rounds to have even got a draw. And I can't give him 5 rounds. I can't find 5 rounds to give him, let alone 6 for him to have a win. So my thoughts haven't changed on the fight. Still very disappointed on it, but in the overall, and what means more than the important part of Tyson being happy, being healthy, being in a good place. You just saw the video of him there that I just showed you that he's just sent me. You know, he's in a good place, and that means more to me than all the rest of it. Of course, it means everything at the time, but on the scale of things, when you strip it back, the fact of where he is now mentally, emotionally, and physically as well is what means a lot more and the real importance.
Now, I wasn't fortunate enough to get a post-fight interview with Tyson in LA. But it seemed to me from the press conference and then speaking to you afterwards, and even now really, that you took the draw worse than he did. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, I would say so, yeah. His calm demeanour after and the way he took it helped me calm down a little bit. But, obviously, at the time, I was very, very disappointed. And I still am about it. It still, does get to me. But at the end of the day, like I say, when it does get to me, I just look at the big picture and what we've achieved over the last 14, 15 months is a real miracle, really.
Now, obviously, you had a bit of time away over the Christmas period, but you have been with Tyson since then. How's that been?
Yeah, good. We went over to Marbella on the 1st of January. We done a small training camp over in Marbella. It was good, Tyson on the last day come in at 17 stone 13. He was in a good place, enjoying his training, and just in a good place, and that's what matters. He's ticking over. He's ticking over. He's like most fighters' training camp, to be honest. He works very, very hard, and since day one working, I've always said that the big task is holding him back a little bit sometimes, and but managed to do that because we respect each other. So if I might say to him that he needs to slow down and hold back, then he'll do so, and it shows in the performance. And in the interview I said with you at Windsor Park, was it Windsor Park? Windsor Park, that Tyson would have a career best performance at the end of the year, and I think we saw that, and it just shows what our relationship can produce.
How far away do you think Tyson was in the Wilder fight from his best?
Well, funny enough, when we went, I always said that he needs a good rest. He needs a good rest from the weight loss because it's going to take his toll on anybody. To lose a light welterweight off your body, you're going to take his toll on somebody. And I don't feel like we had enough rest for Tyson to be at his best. And I always said to him, I look forward to him having a rest and then starting again. And I could tell over in Marbella the difference in his power, strength. It was, I'd say, a good 30%, 40%. After 2 days, I had to say to him, you got to give me a day off. He crippled me. So, looking forward to him having another little bit of a rest. He'll need a little rest because he's constantly been going at it. So, let him recover a little bit. He's got these tour dates. After a little rest, we get back into training camp, and I look forward to what we can produce there. We'll have to wait and see.
Now, we'll come on to the WBC mandate and the rematch later on in the interview, but when I spoke to you before Christmas on the Boxing Social podcast, you have to plug that in every interview from now on, you told me that you didn't necessarily think the Wilder rematch was the right move to go. You talked about potentially wanting to see Joshua versus Wilder. Is that still your thoughts? I mean, we'll come on to the WBC mandate in it, but purely from a training perspective, would you like to see him take a different fight in the meantime?
That wasn't actually as a trainer's perspective. That was more as a fan's perspective, to be honest with you, because that's a fight I want to see. I want to see that fight. I want to see the two styles mix. I'm very interested to see how they gel. For Tyson, it doesn't really matter what's next. He's in a good place. He's doing whatever it is that he needs to do to get himself in shape. He's enjoying his boxing, and whatever comes up next, Tyson will be 100% for. So, I always had my doubts that the Anthony Joshua fight would be able to be negotiated. It doesn't look like it will be, but you never know. And the Wilder fight, there are negotiations at this level can be tricky, but I think we've got a lot more chance of that being made. But if it doesn't, we've got options to go elsewhere, Tyson's stock has really risen from that fight, and, we're at the top of the tree because Wilder wants to fight us. Joshua wants to fight Wilder. So everything goes off of what decision we make. So people are talking 60-40s and this, that, and the other, but everybody's decisions depend on what decision we make. So it goes to show who's at the top of the tree.
Just explain that to me, because I did the Boxing Social podcast episode 2 with Dave Allen the other day, and we kind of said that it feels, certainly from the outside looking in, that people are kind of waiting to see what Joshua does. If Joshua goes and then fights Jarrell Miller, then the Fury-Wilder rematch can take place and so on and so forth. Explain to me why that's different, why they're waiting for you guys, as it were.
Because why are they waiting for Jarrell Miller? Why they're waiting to announce Jarrell Miller. So they're saying is that they want to try and make a fight with Wilder, us, or Whyte, and if they can't, then it'll be Jarrell Miller. So they're saying their number one's Wilder, but Wilder's number one is us. That's what they want. So, but I don't think that they're going to be able to agree terms with Wilder. I don't think we're going to be able to agree terms with them. And we'll have to see how negotiations go with us and Wilder. But who's majorly interested in Joshua and Miller? Not many, I don't think. So, yeah, that's why things sort of rely on what we do.
It's a very, very noisy door, but we'll carry on. There we go. Just lost my train of thought there. Yeah, the WBC mandate in the fight. Purse bids are due on February the 5th. When I spoke to... I didn't speak to him, beg your pardon. Mark Gatford from Boxing Social spoke to Frank yesterday, and Frank said that there are still a few things in negotiations that have to be kind of sorted out. If they're not, and it goes to purse bids, is that still the fight that you think is probably next for Tyson, or do you explore other options?
I don't think it'll go to purse bids, because if it goes to purse bids, Tyson's not going to take a 60-40, like he wouldn't take a 60-40 with Joshua. It's not going to happen. So I'm sure that we'll agree terms before it gets to that point. Obviously, it's not for me to say to talk too much about negotiations. It's not for me to decide what Tyson will and won't do, but I believe that terms can be agreed before, as long as they meet our terms. They need that fight more than we need it. Wilder's needs to validate himself as a world champion again. Let Barry just reopen the door. There we go. I think 90% of the boxing world knows that we won that fight. So we haven't got to prove anything. It's up to Wilder. Wilder needs that fight. We don't need anything. We're in a good position. And if our terms get met, then Tyson's shown time and time again that he'll go to Vladimir Klitschko's backyard, one of the biggest punches in heavyweight history, the longest reigning champion in heavyweight history. He went to his backyard and fought. He's gone to Deontay Wilder, probably the biggest puncher in heavyweight history. Let the door shut again. Heavyweight history's backyard, and fought him off a long layoff, which everybody thought was too soon. He's shown he's not worried about going to people's backyards and having a fight, even if timing doesn't suit him perfectly. His game is a pebble, balls like King Kong, so there's no problem.
Now you mentioned that. Just waiting for the door again. That's okay. Now you mentioned that the kind of the layoff. I mean, you were one of the people. You were one of the people who said that, you know, in an ideal world, you'd have seen Tyson take another fight in the meantime. He didn't. He landed on the Wilder fight. This is kind of what I was getting at the start of the interview from a training perspective. Now he's gone through that. What ultimately, correct me if I'm wrong here, Tyson will decide what Tyson wants to do. But from a training perspective, what would you like to see him do next? What fight would you like to see? Would you like to see him go straight back into either a Joshua or a Wilder fight, or throwing names out of it completely out of the blue, but like a Joseph Parker fight, a Povetkin fight, somebody who's, forgive me for saying it, not quite at that elite level, but still competed a lot on world level. What would you prefer to see him do from a trainer's point of view?
We would all love to be able to give the British public that Joshua fight. We'd love to be able to give that. It's a fantastic fight, massive fight, but when you talk about the terms and that, it's not possible for 60-40. It's not. when you've got Wilder, but I think people got this perception that the Joshua fight would generate, more than Wilder Fury, but it wouldn't because of the strength of the American market. Because one American buy is like the equivalent to 3 buys back in the UK, because it's at $75, $85, whatever it is. Over here, you're talking about £20, £25. So 500,000 buys in America is like 1.5 million here. Also, if you're in the US, you get the UK pay-per-view market, because it's early hours of the morning, people are at home and are able to buy if they want to buy. Whereas when you have a main event in the UK, you don't get the US pay-per-view market because of the time difference. It's 6 o'clock Californian time, or New York time, one or two, and 3 o'clock in the other. And, some people aren't even home from work, and that's main event without an undercard. So, you don't really get that, the US pay-per-view market, so you're missing out big there. And so, unfortunately, that fight would generate more. And the people keep talking about, you got to go off highest purses, this, that, and the other. Okay, so if that's what the purse split's about, so I'm saying if Wilder and Fury went and had the rematch, their highest purses outweigh Joshua's highest purses, are we going to come back and claim for 60-40? Or is it about belts? Because Wilder's got a belt, Joshua's got some belts. Why are they not 50-50? So, if you want to fight at elite level, it's 50-50. This is my opinions, by the way. I'm not talking for Frank Warren, I'm not talking for Tyson, I'm not talking for anybody else, I'm talking on my opinions. And that's how I see it. Joshua had a great matchup against Klitschko, and he's had a few good matchups. Povetkin, good matchup. Parker, good matchup. But he's due a great matchup, and the public are demanding it and not being so forgiving with him over it, because even the public know he's due a great matchup. Tyson had a great matchup with Klitschko. He had a great matchup with Wilder. Wilder had a great matchup with Ortiz and a great matchup with Tyson. So I feel like he's due it, and not everybody can be wrong and saying that their terms that they're offering are not good enough. Tyson, Wilder and Whyte can't be wrong. If he was generating Mayweather money, like they make out that it is, Mayweather never had a problem making a fight. If he offered 20%, 25%, he was making that much money that people would accept that. But when you're talking about, what we're talking about isn't Mayweather money. And like I say, not all three of the offers can all be wrong in saying that the terms aren't good enough. So I think that's something for them to look at. But like I say, it's my opinion. That's how I see it. And I think if they want to make those fights, they're going to have to offer 50-50. But then again, it depends on what's more important to them. If it's more important about making money, then see, 50-50 for me isn't. I'm not talking about money generated. I'm talking about principle. We've got 3 of the best heavyweights in the world. Nobody knows who the best is. I feel like I know, but the public don't know who the best is, and they want to see it made conclusive. But so therefore, I think that we can get those fights done 50-50, 50-50, 50-50, and we're going to get to see what we want to see. But whether we will or not, it doesn't look like we're going to get that. So,
was the first Wilder Fury fight 50-50?
I can't talk about contracts, do you know what I mean, and say what this was, what that wasn't. But what I will say is it's not one rule for one and one rule for another. That's what I will say. I'll say that Tyson has his terms, and he's very fair with his terms. Like I said before, he's clearly not worried about a fight, is he? Because he's gone to Klitschko's backyard, gone to Wilder's backyard. So if the terms are fair, he's going to fight. You haven't got to worry about that. He's not scared to fight anybody, and actions speak louder than words, and his actions have shown that. But like I say, I can't talk on contracts, but like I've said, it's not one rule for one and one rule for another.
We've mentioned belts. What do you say to people who point to the fact that Joshua has 3 of the 4 recognised major championship belts? Tyson is the lineal champion, but he doesn't bring hardware to the table. What do you say to people who point to that as a reason why Joshua should get the lion's share of the purse?
Okay, we've got that, but that would be different if he was a standout. If he was a standout, say that's the best man in the division, like Klitschko was, then it's different. But he's not. Nobody conclusively says that man is the best man in the heavyweight division. So I think that they're not. If you've got an undisputed champion, he's not undisputed because there's dispute about it. People don't know if Wilder's better than Joshua. People don't know if Joshua's better than Wilder. People don't know if Fury can beat the both of them. We know he can beat one of them because we've seen it, but we want to see the other one as well. So I don't think that's. Tyson's not going to say, I want to fight Anthony Joshua because I want those belts. He wants to show that he's the best and be undisputed, to say, no dispute, I'm the best man in the world. Yeah. Closing the door again. He wants to show that there's no dispute that I'm the best man in the world. That's what it's about. It's not about this certain colour belt or that certain colour belt or this certain organisation, that certain organisation. We need to be realistic with the situation. The situation is we don't know who's the best. Put the belts to one side and they'll figure themselves out if we get these matchups on.
When I spoke to Eddie Hearn after Whyte Chisora, he said that he'd been talking to Tyson. It's something that he's repeated in the New Year's recently as last week, I believe, when he spoke to Coogan. What contact do you know of has been made between the two?
Yeah, I was in the car. He sent a text. I think Tyson spoke to the media as well about what was said. Basically, Tyson said, make me an offer. Eddie texted him saying, is it worth us having a discussion about the fight? Tyson texted back saying, well, obviously. And then Eddie didn't text back, so Tyson texted him saying, have you gone cold on me? Then Eddie said, no, I'm just trying to work a few things out. And Tyson said, well, come back to me with an offer when you got an offer. Then the offer's come back and it's not near what it needs to be. Simple as that. It's not the money thing. It's not the money thing for Tyson. It's the principle. It's about the principle. He's not going to say, you have this, I have that. Do you know what I mean? Because he feels like he's shown that he's the best man in the world. He's the only man that's fought the best in Klitschko at the time. Klitschko was the best man. He beat Klitschko. Wilder is the triangle, which people are disputing who the best is, and he's going to beat him. Draw, whatever. He's going to beat him and shown that he's stepped up to the mark. He's the only one who stepped up to the mark. Now it's time for him to step up to the mark and fight one of the other two best. How can you beat the best if you don't beat the best? And another thing, people talk about this lineal status, this, that and the other. Oh, Lennox Lewis retired, so how can Tyson be the lineal champion? Well, Vladimir got the lineal status, he earned the lineal status, and if anybody has any legitimacy to a lineal champion, is it not the longest reigning champion of history? We're not talking about amount of title defence, I'm talking about the amount of time Klitschko.
I was going to mention Joe Lewis, but you've covered it.
I've covered it. So, in terms of length, so if anybody has a legitimacy to the lineal status, surely it's that man there. So if anybody else's legitimacy stands, it's Tyson's, because he beat him. So it's a silly discussion for them to try and bring up and try and play down his achievements. But, like I said, actions speak louder than words. He's beat, who is available for him to fight and possible for him to fight, who happen to have been the very best, Klitschko and Wilder.
Going back to kind of conversations that you've had with Eddie or Tyson's had with Eddie, I'm sure that, let me rephrase this. Is it normal to have a rival promoter contact a rival fighter? I mean, Frank Warren is, to my knowledge, was Tyson's promoter. Should those conversations not be had between promoter and promoter?
That's for them to discuss. Obviously, it's difficult relationship between Frank and Eddie, but I'm sure they can sort it out. They're big grown men, and if however the team wants to negotiate it, they can negotiate it. So, but everybody's kept in the loop. What happens is somebody hits the media, then more discussions go on, then somebody else hits the media, and it's like, oh, but this happened, and he said this, but things change day to day, so everybody's kept in the loop, everybody knows, and that's all that matters, really.
Eddie also questioned whether or not Tyson was under contract with Frank Warren. Just wondered if you could shed some light on that.
In what way? Why would Eddie think that he's not?
I don't know. Eddie said it, not me.
No, like I said, it's not my place to discuss contracts and that. But that hasn't even been brought up, so I don't know why Eddie brought it up. He may be trying to give Frank a little one in the ribs, but listen, it's all fun to watch, and it's all fun and games, so it's not for me to comment.
Okay, moving on. Dillian Whyte, you've already mentioned and alluded to him in this interview. He's kind of the latest Wilder and Tyson to kind of turn his nose up, as it were, to a potential fight with Anthony Joshua. Just what do you make of that? I think people generally thought, and still do, think he was or is the front runner to fight Joshua in April. He's kind of turned his back on that, although I understand conversations are still being had. Just what do you make of that?
Look, Dillian Whyte, he's 100% earned a shot for a world title. He has. Unfortunately, at the moment, the three best are negotiating terms and speaking, and everybody wants to see that. But he's earned a shot for a world title, 100%. I saw an interview that somebody said about 4 million. Eddie didn't say it's 4 million. They asked if it was over that or something like that. So I don't know what's been offered. Obviously, they're not going to come out with exactly what figures have been offered, but he understands the business, so he knows what's right, what he should have. He's been in pay-per-view events, and he knows his worth. So that's all it is. Like I said, not everybody can be wrong. Wilder said that the terms were not good enough. Tyson said the terms were not good enough, and Whyte said the terms were not good enough. So not everybody can be wrong. And if Whyte's clearly shown his game to fight, because he's fought plenty of good men as well. Tyson, like I've already explained, and Wilder stepped up to the mark. So you can't use the excuse that, they're scared to fight Joshua, because the others are stepping up to the mark anyway.
Now, Dillian's also made no secret, and to be fair, nor has Eddie, the fact that they've kind of worked together on a fight-by-fight. There's no long-term contract in place. With that being said, would a Dillian Whyte-Tyson Fury fight interest you or interest Tyson?
Maybe. It's not even under discussion at the minute, so not had that conversation. We're looking at other things at the minute, but I wouldn't see why it would be a problem if the situation arose.
What other things are you looking at? Don't tease me.
Well, obviously, people know we're trying to make these big fights. The public want them, we want them, so we'll see how they go first.
With Dillian Whyte, I think he was in Las Vegas for Pacquiao-Broner. I think kind of flirting, as it were. I think is kind of the general feeling about it, with potentially moving to PBC and potentially fighting Dominic Breazeale. Do you think that's a good way for him to go? I mean, potentially force the WBC. I mean, you've just mentioned the fact that he's probably entitled, or definitely entitled, to a world title shot. Do you think that's a good move for him?
I don't know. I don't know what the situation is. I don't know what he's been offered. I don't know if he's had any other offers. I don't know if he's had a counter offer. I don't know what he's thinking, where he wants to go with it. I don't know what the WBC have said to him. I don't know what Al Heyman said to him. So I can't really comment on that. All I know is that I do think he's earned a world title shot, and I hope that he gets it.
When can we expect an announcement regarding Tyson? Obviously, the clock is ticking, as it were, coming down to February the 5th. Could there be a situation where the Wilder fight, for whatever reason, isn't negotiated and then you move on before then?
Potentially, of course, yeah. Of course. Like I said, Tyson's very fair with his terms. He's not scared to fight. His actions have shown that. I can't keep repeating it enough. Everybody knows that. So, meet the terms, you get a fight. It's if you want to fight or not.
Just want to get your opinion as well on some comments that Lennox Lewis has made recently. I don't know if you've seen them. They've been kind of doing the rounds on Twitter. It's kind of... you said no, so I kind of have to try and remember off the top of my head. It's kind of like paraphrasing when he said about... it was Deontay Wilder's comments about Anthony Joshua milking... Eddie Hearn, beg your pardon, milking Anthony Joshua, and Lennox Lewis has kind of gone on with that. It's a very difficult question to ask you now. You haven't even seen it, so we'll just bin that.
What I will say is the fact that, look, Eddie's job and Joshua's team's job is to get him the best deal. And I know, obviously, Joshua's trying to get himself the best deal. I completely understand that. Boxing is, as well as a sport, it's a business, so it is what it is. But not a problem, and he can keep doing that to a certain extent. And he can go over and fight Miller. The problem is they put themselves in a bad situation. If we have the Wilder rematch and he fights Miller, it's only going to get compared. Look what gets generated. Look at how many views it gets, buys it gets.
Does that then make sorry for interrupting? Does that then make a potential Joshua Wilder, Joshua Fury fight even more difficult down the line if that happens?
I don't know, because what do we turn around then? Because it's obviously not going to keep up with what we do if we go that route. So then they put themselves in a bad situation there, really. So it's a difficult one. I think their best bet would have been to just agree a 50-50 with either Tyson or Wilder and get something done. Because now they're in a sticky situation where they're going to be compared, if we go that route, to what we do. And I don't think they're going to be able to compare. And then it's like, oh, we're the A side and they're the B side. And A side, B side, bullshit again. So, listen, Tyson just wants to fight, and he's very fair with his terms, saying it again. And if meet his terms, you've got to fight.
Just last word on the whole heavyweight merry-go-round. If Joshua does indeed fight Jarrell Miller, is that a dangerous fight for Joshua? Is that an easy fight for Joshua? What are your thoughts on that fight?
Oh, difficult one. Listen, Joshua's a good man. He can fight. He's a very good fighter. He's done a good job of perfecting. I'd expect Anthony Joshua to come through that fight, yeah.
What problems, if any, do you think Jarrell Miller would pose Anthony Joshua?
Jarrell Miller's a big lump and he could apply pressure, and if he could make Anthony Joshua... But you can't make Anthony Joshua work by taking shots. Not a good idea. So it depends on how Jarrell Miller goes about it. Because if he tries to use his side and use his arms and his face, basically, to make Joshua work, it's not going to be a good move, because you get caught with too many shots, you're going to get put to sleep. If he can make Joshua work without taking too much punishment and apply that pressure and make him work at a tempo that he doesn't feel comfortable at, you know, we saw Takam do a similar sort of thing, but without probably the size and variety that Miller's got, and it could lead to a difficult night. So it'd be an interesting one, but like I said, I'd expect Anthony Joshua to come through that.
Okay, this is really the last word on the heavyweights. Now you've faced Deontay Wilder, not you personally, although I'm sure you do a good job. I've seen your sparring and stuff that's been posted on Instagram looking sharp. Yeah. Now you face Deontay Wilder, what do you think is a more difficult fight for Tyson? If it is indeed his next fight, would it be the Wilder rematch or the Joshua fight?
Style-wise, the Deontay Wilder fight is a harder fight. People say, oh, he can't box, he can't this, he can't that. But it's what Tyson makes him look like. Makes everybody look like. It's because of Tyson, how good Tyson is. But he's the most difficult matchup for us. We've not made no bones about it, not tried to say, oh, he's rubbish or played him down or this or that. He punches like a horse kicking, obviously. He's quick. He's a lot stronger than people think he is. And he can box better. He's got a good jab. He's very, very lightning quick. I knew he was quick, but he even shocked me on the night. And he's a formidable challenge, for sure.
Tough as well, which I don't think people give him enough credit for. We've seen him wobbled in the past by DeHope Hassan Molina and kind of it, but he took some shots from Tyson, and people have this kind of misconception about Tyson that he can't punch. He's like 6'9", 19 stone, so he could probably punch a little bit. Were you surprised about how tough Wilder was?
No, I wasn't, to be honest, because fortunately for us, we'd already seen it with the Ortiz fight, so he's proved it before, you know. He's got plenty of heart. And got full respect. But listen, I feel like we already beat him, and we'll do a better job this time with Tyson being 100%.
Moving away from the heavyweights, somebody who you also know very well and you've worked with in the past, Billy Joe Saunders, has just been installed as mandatory challenger for Demetrius Andre's WBO World Middleweight title. First off, let's start on Andre's last performance. Boxed somebody you know very well, Artur Akavov, when you cornered Billy Joe for his fight against him. Did you catch the fight? And what did you make of the performance, if you did?
I watched a bit of the fight. The other night. What did I think of his performance? It was a good performance. It was okay. I don't feel like Andrade would be much of a problem for Billy Joe. He's obviously good, fast hands, but there's flaws there, plenty of flaws as well, that Billy Joe will be able to exploit. I'm not obviously going to mention them, but there's definitely flaws there that Billy Joe will be able to exploit. And I think Billy Joe looked good, and I think Billy Joe's power could play out in that fight, and people will see that, you know, Billy Joe can punch.
We saw Billy Joe return to action on the Warrington Frampton undercard. boxed at, what was it, light heavyweight, cruiserweight, light heavyweight? I don't know. Like, I'm genuinely, I can't remember. Have you spoken to Billy Joe recently? Have you seen Billy Joe?
Yeah, I spoke to him last night. Spoke to him yesterday. I was going to go do a little bit of work with him yesterday, but times we couldn't match up times, and I'll probably speak to him. May even see him later.
He had I think it's putting it mildly, a year to forget last year. From speaking to him, is he in a position now where he's kind of got a bit between his teeth, to borrow a term from Frank, and kind of looking at pressing forward and making up for lost time? Because he's, as a boxing fan, it's been frustrating to watch his career because he's been inactive and obviously he's had his issues outside the ring as well. Is he in last chance saloon? Does he kind of feel that way, that he has to kind of make up for those periods where he's been away from the ring and potentially not achieved what he could have?
Don't think that. I think he just put the year behind him and look to move on. He looked to get his world title back and push on from there, and see how the ground lies. And the problem is with boxing is the ground is always changing. So, that'll be his first task, and then I'll reassess then.
Another fight that's been announced in middleweight division recently is Canelo versus Danny Jacobs. You're one of few people, Shane McGuigan being the other person, who I like to ask questions of kind of fights that you're not really anything to do with at all. That would be one of them. What do you make of that fight, Canelo versus Danny Jacobs?
It's a good fight. It's a very good fight. People are talking about the performance that Danny Jacobs had against Golovkin, but Golovkin style and Canelo style I see very differently. And it's an interesting fight. It is an interesting fight. But obviously I'd like to see Billy Joe in there with both of them. If not Golovkin, that would be a good fight. So it's like I say, the ground could very quickly change. If Danny Jacobs can pull that off, the ground very quickly changes. So interesting fight. The middleweight division's coming back alive, and looking forward to it.
Mentioned Golovkin. Frank Warren kind of came out and said that he'd been speaking to Tom Loeffler about a potential Golovkin-Saunders fight. Now Billy Joe's been mandated for the WBO. That's probably going to be shelved for a little bit. Is that a fight that now, I mean, you may have thought it even in Golovkin's prime, but now is that a more winnable fight with kind of the Golovkin? I think it's fair to say is probably past his best. Still a fantastic fight. I mean, a lot of people still think he beat Canelo both times. Is that a winnable fight now for Billy Joe Saunders? Has it always been a winnable fight for Billy Joe Saunders?
It's always been a winnable fight for Billy Joe, in my opinion, and especially now. But I wouldn't want to see Billy Joe beat Golovkin and everybody say, he's past his best and all the rest of it, So, Billy Joe's shown what level he's at when he done a job on Lemieux like he done. So, it's an interesting matchup. What other fights is there? The Eubank, good fight. Broner Pacquiao's just been, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. All of this has been covered on the latest episode of the Boxing Social podcast.
Do you know with Pacquiao-Broner though, right? What frustrates me, I watched that the other day, last night actually. Broner's a very good boxer, okay? But everybody says the same thing. You need to let your hands go first. You need to this, you need to that. When Broner used his front hand to control the distance and kept his weight distribution slightly back, he made Manny fall short because Manny likes to start his attacks off with his front hand and countered him and then reset him. But I think he thinks that this looks good, whereas it's not so effective for him as it is for, say, Floyd. Which was allowing Manny to start his offence with his front hand, and then obviously once Manny gets into a rhythm, it's very hard to put him out of it. And I think the problem is everybody's always said to Broner, you need to get your shots off. But the problem is, I explain it like traffic lights. He has a problem creating a green light. So at a lower level, an opponent at a lower level will give you the green light and allow for you to get your offence off and be first. But at elite level, you don't get given the green light. You've got to create the green light, okay? And that's what he struggles with. He struggles to create the opportunity to be first. And it's very frustrating because I watched that fight and I can understand what he's saying about, not that he won the fight, but I can understand where he was having success and dictating at certain times. But it is what it is. But it was an interesting one, and it'd be interesting if he could develop that part of his game. I think it'd take him up tenfold, but it's whether he'd be willing to to still learn and that, but that was an interesting fight. DeGale Eubank, interesting fight. Obviously, the public's constantly, everybody's questioning whether Chunky can still do what we know he can do. If he can do, I think he wins the fight comfortably. Not comfortably, that's a lie actually, because Eubank will always make everybody work just because his physical attributes. He'll always make everybody work for a win. But I think DeGale can come through that. If he's not, I think Eubank will come for it. So that's an interesting one. That's what you want, don't they? See, the public think that we want to see who's the best out of Joshua, Tyson and Wilder. But then what happens when it's all done? We don't really want to know. We want to always be guessing. Like if we know who's going to win a fight, it's like, oh yeah, he's fighting him. But when you don't know, it's a little bit, oh, who is the best? That's what draws people's attention. So it's good. It's a good fight. Looking forward to it. And Joe Joyce just got announced he's fighting Bermane-Stiverne. Good fight.
What do you think to that fight? Because the last time I saw Bermane-Stiverne in the ring was when he got taken out in a round by Wilder. I mean, not to say that you're a bad fighter because you get taken out in a round by Wilder, but he didn't look like the Bermane-Stiverne that beat Chris Arreola, and you know that version of Bermane-Stiverne.
He wasn't fighting Chris Arreola. He's fighting Deontay Wilder. Point, yeah. So that's why it's another interesting one. What do you think? I don't know. That's what draws people's attention. Can Stiverne pull off a performance? Can he? You know, how good is Joe Joyce? Can Joe Joyce produce a quality performance? Is Bermane-Stiverne's shot? We don't know. Looking forward to it. Good one. When people ask about fights and that, what do you think about this fight? Well, it all depends on their game plan, don't it? Because you can be a fantastic fighter, but if you go into the fight with a wrong game plan, you're going to get beat. So it's an interesting one. Interesting to see how Joe goes about that sort of style. Because Stiverne can punch a bit. So it'd be interesting to see if Joe walks straight through him or tries to box a little bit. Be interesting to see how Stiverne turns up, what sort of shape he turns up. It's an interesting one, so we'll see.
You worked with Joe, obviously, in the build-up to the first Wilder fight so far, the only Wilder fight with Tyson. From kind of your eye or your assessment of Joe Joyce, how soon, providing he does come through against Stiverne, how soon do you think it'll be before he can challenge for world titles, or is he ready now?
He's pretty much there. He is pretty much there. The only thing I'd say for Joe is just getting some rounds in, learning how to do the rounds, knowing how to manage the rounds. But that can all come through coaching and just a bit of experience. So, but Joe's a machine, a 19-stone machine. So he's a force to be reckoned with for anybody, for sure.
Okay, well I think that's probably about it. We've been going for about 45 minutes. Not bad. Not bad. It's the first time in a long time I've gone for 45 minutes.
The only time I've gone for 45 minutes.
Ben Davison, as always, it's a pleasure catching up with you. Nice to see you looking so well, too well in some parts of you. Look forward to catching up with you soon. Sort me out that interview with Tyson.
Will do, mate. And we'll sort out some Gypsy King memorabilia as well, or what's it called? Attire.
Merch.
Merchandise.
Ben Davison, thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social.
Thank you.